Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Skift Senior Research Analyst, Seth Borko.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed your lunch and you've enjoyed the morning session so far. And as we start our afternoon block, I'm really excited because we're going to take a bit of a shift. We're going to look at new emerging technologies in the travel industry, and particularly the startups that are developing those technologies and bringing them to market. And so to that end, I think we have one of our more exciting panels today. We're going to have our startup pitch competition. We're going to have 4 cutting-edge travel and tech startups join me on stage in just a moment. Each presenter will give you a 5 to 6 minute presentation, an overview of their company, what they do, and what problems they're solving for us in the travel industry. This one, I'm going to ask for a little audience participation on this one. We're going to have a poll at the end of this session where you can vote on your favorite pitch. So that will be in the mobile app, right where you've been putting Q&A. There's another tab that says poll, so be sure to check that there. We'll also be taking Q&A, so Q&A and poll. One of the reasons why I'm so excited about this panel is because it's really the past generations of startups that, whether we realize it at the time or not, really shaped the world of travel that we live and breathe in today. I think of, Web 1.0 startups, Orbitz, Expedia. At one point they were startups. They really revolutionized e-commerce and the way we know it in travel. Web 2.0 and the sharing economy, I think Airbnb is a great example of that kind of company. They transformed how we think about apartment rentals, but not just that, the entire accommodation sector. Now Marriott's on stage talking about home sharing. So, what's next? What's the next big thing? That's the conversation that we're having both on stage and off stage with all of us. And I think talking with startup founders is one of the best ways to kind of get a peek behind the curtain and understand what's coming up next in the travel industry. Now, I wanted to put up a slide and share some of our Skift research. Haysha mentioned at the beginning of the session that, according to our numbers, 2018 was a record year for the venture capital funding of travel. 650 deals, $7.5 billion. You heard that this morning. But I think what this slide shows, pretty interesting, is that travel's still a relatively small slice of the overall venture capital ecosystem, about 2% of funding, again, according to our numbers. But I'm optimistic. I think that number can go up, and I think that means there's a lot of room for improvement and for new startups and for growth. And in fact, that's actually what happened in 2018 when venture capital and travel grew faster than venture capital overall. Why am I optimistic? Well, one part is the consumer, of course. More people are traveling than ever before. Our market is growing. But the second part is emergent technology, which has the ability to reinvent a lot of travel businesses that we know. And when we talk about, disruptive tech, a lot of jargon comes out, a lot of buzzwords, blockchain, Internet of Things, virtual reality, a lot of really good headlines, but sometimes the detail can be lacking. And so that's why I'm excited about today's panel. Today, we're going to try and cut through the hype and ground many of those buzzwords in the real world of the startups that are deploying those technologies and developing them for our market. Now, we have 4 great startup panels today. They all sit in slightly different parts of the travel industry, and they all use slightly different technologies. So I was trying to think, how do we tie these companies all together? What are some threads? I came up with 3 common threads. I'm going to share them with you up front so you can keep them in the back of your mind as you're listening to these pitches. So number 1, it's all really cutting-edge tech, but at the end of the day, there's still tools to optimize processes or achieve goals that we already work on today. So, virtual reality in the service of customer experience, it's a new technology, it's exciting, but we still obsess about the customer every day, all of us. Number 2, no tech can exist in isolation. It's always part of a larger workflow. So blockchain or distributed ledgers, that's a really exciting type of database technology, but at the end of the day, it's a way to store data. It's not really helpful without a way to collect data or a way to process the data on the other side. So it needs to be integrated into that larger ecosystem. And number 3, I was just really struck by how advanced the tech is. I hear something like biometrics, and I think that's got to be sci-fi or still in the lab, but not really. There's a lot of startups out there today with real viable products and business models in production. So the future, might be closer than we realize today, and that's what we want to learn. And so I'm going to end my comments there. I want to welcome up the real stars of today's show, which are our 4 startup panelists. Please welcome them on stage right now. Yep, exactly. So, well, thank you all for joining us. I don't think we should waste any time. Let's get started. We've got Nadim El Manawy. He's the co-founder and CEO of Arise. And why don't you tell us about your company?
Okay, I'll just
please.
Easier. So hi everyone. So my name is Nadim, co-founder of Arise, and we're building a global distribution network for hotels, helping them share data and transact with their partners in a more direct and trustworthy way. So if we look at hotel distribution today, it's quite a mess. We've got hotels on one side, companies selling their rooms on the other, and between many interconnected intermediaries that each have their own APIs, data formats, and they all cache hotel data locally. And you see these caches cause today two major problems. The first is that hotel availability and rates often get out of sync throughout the distribution chain when cache data gets stale. The second, which is more problematic, is that hotels have no visibility over who is actually accessing their data as soon as it gets stored in an intermediary's cache, making it super easy for third parties to access hotel discount rates they were not supposed to. And I mean, just look at what's happening today with all the discount rates that leak online and end up on OTAs and metasearch that clearly undercut the hotel's direct channels. So at Arise, oh, sorry, I forgot to pass one here. Skipping, maybe?
Can we go one forward more?
One more, yeah. So at Arise, we solve these problems, which should be the next slide, but there we go. With a new distribution technology that acts like a distributed cache, where all connected parties can view and update the same shared record at the same time. So no more stale cache data, and hotels have complete control and visibility over the distribution of their inventory and rates. And this distributed model gives us unique ways to prevent rate leakage from happening. So solving a problem that today is costing hotels billions of dollars a year in lost revenue. And so with our technology, we now have a single auditable source of truth for each booking that both hotels and demand partners can trust at all times, which now allows us to combine multiple industry processes into a single service. So commission or markup level agreements, the distribution of up-to-date availability and rate, and the transfer of owed payments between hotels and companies selling their rooms can now all be automated with our technology. And this automation now allows for hotels to actually work with point-of-sale partners in a more direct and dynamic way. So hotels can now set the commissions they're willing to pay on the network, which can vary per channel, date, room type, and so forth, and send that along with their availability and rate. And then point-of-sale partners can then decide what inventory to show to their customers based on potential earnings. So now that hotels can actually work and transact directly with demand partners, even without knowing them, they can start bypassing intermediaries like affiliate network and wholesalers, and increase their bottom line revenue by a projected 20+%. And so hotels can benefit from our technology via their CRS or channel manager. Arise runs like a new distribution channel that runs in parallel to what they already have in place. And point-of-sale partners can tap into our API to basically get access to the supply that's available on our network in a very similar way than what they already do today when they feed off an affiliate network, GDSs, and other different type of supply source they work with. And so to demonstrate the benefit of our technology, we are starting with D-Edge as our first connectivity partner. D-Edge is owned by Accor, used to be two companies called Availpro and Fast Booking. So about 12,000 hotels use D-Edge today to manage their distribution, including 75% of the hotels in Paris, where we are going to focus in the very short term before expanding to more regions and connecting the other relevant CRS and channel managers. And so, yeah, because the reason why we picked them versus others is because we wanted to have a high concentration of hotels in a tier 1 destination like Paris in order to incentivize demand partners to join the network faster. And we're also demonstrating the value of having a trusted shared record between hotels and demand partners. And so for that, we started a pilot with CWT, Carlson Wagenlit, they used to be called, in order to basically improve some of their business processes and how they work with hotels. And 2 months in, we're already seeing great results, and the goal for us is to have them soon become one of the many demand partners live on the network and allow them to transact with hotels in a much more direct and efficient way moving forward. And so the way we make money is a SaaS on the hotel side on a per room per month basis, and transactional on the demand side by handling the payment and the automation of commission payouts. And so my co-founder and I started Arise a year and a half ago, after previously having spent 4.5 years building and scaling a cloud PMS company, Front Desk Anywhere. Maybe some of you guys know it. So we know how hotel operates and also how current distribution works with all the issues and challenges that come with it. And so when we started last year, we raised a small amount of money to get started. We'll be raising more here in the near future to execute and expand on our go-to-market strategy. And so we're very excited to be in a position today to offer a solution that is much needed in the industry and that over time is greatly going to benefit the two sides that matter the most, the hotels and the companies that sell their room to the guests. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nadim. Our next presenter is Andrew Gowasack. He's the CEO and co-founder of Truststamp.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
So one of the topics that we've been talking about a lot today is this idea of providing a seamless customer experience, and that can't be more important than the area of check-in. So how can I provide a seamless check-in experience from the time that that passenger arrives on the curb to the time that they first check into their hotel? Well, one of the technologies that's really created an opportunity to make this a reality is biometric technology. Now, we've already seen a multitude of biometric modalities implemented. We've seen fingerprints, we've seen facial recognition, we've even seen iris scanning at things like Clear. However, as that technology has become more prevalent, it has caused both regulators and consumers to begin to ask questions. They're asking questions like, how are you collecting that data? How are you transmitting that data? And more importantly, how are you storing that data? And with regulations like PSD2, GDPR, and model legislation in California, I think they're making it loud and clear. While they want the benefit of this biometric technology, they are clear that this solution needs to be compliant, it needs to be secure, and it needs to be something that protects their privacy. And so this is where Truststamp comes in. So Truststamp has a proprietary AI that is able to convert any biometric modality into a unique 512-byte hash. Now that hash is completely unique to each user and cannot be reverse engineered into its original format. Now that means that while each hash is unique to you, it does not constitute personally identifiable information, and under GDPR, it's treated as anonymized data. Now, each hash has within it 128 blank encrypted fields in which you, as the hash owner, can store metadata or look up tables to PII data sources, allowing you effectively to update this hash over time as an identity token without making this hash PII. And so once you have these hashes, you store them in a data lake, and we call that the identity lake. And what our AI does is it's able to compare each hash to all previous hashes, and it's able to spot instances where there are duplicate hashes, so that you can spot instances where, let's say, there are cases of fraud, or maybe someone has falsified documents. Again, because we're looking at a biometric, the AI lets you know with confidence that you have duplicates there. And so what does that look like in the real world? I know I've been talking about a lot of kind of ethereal concepts with things like hashes, encryption, et cetera, but what does that look like applied in the real world? Well, I want to share a story that's very important to me and I think is very appropriate for the travel industry. And it's an anti-human trafficking project that we launched with 43 of the US's attorney generals here. Now, the problem we were trying to address was actually a data sharing issue. So it used to be if a girl was seized in Mexico, she was often brought to the US for the purpose of the sex trade. And when the family brought in the photo was uploaded into a local database, it was taken up to a national level, and then the US and Mexican governments would wrangle over various treaties as to whether or not they could share that data. And if that data managed to make it into the FBI database, if a local police officer found the girl in the US, he's doing a needle in a haystack exercise. He's looking through tens of thousands of images, raw images, trying to figure out, is this the same person or not? But because of our hashing technology, now when the family brings in that photo, we're going to convert that again into that non-PII biometric hash. Now when the police officer finds the girl, all he has to do is snap a picture. And he's going to either receive a negative, no, there's no match in the database, or he's going to receive a confirmation. Yes, there's a match. Here's when it was uploaded. Here's who you need to go talk to over on the Mexican law enforcement side. those officers can now go through the correct judicial process to detain the girl, keep her safe, and bring her back to her family safely. Again, that's just one example of what happens when you convert this biometric data into this non-PII data source. Another use case that we have just recently announced is a partnership with MasterCard and the World Health Organization and Gavi for the distribution of vaccinations in countries where people simply lack any form of identification. So it used to be when someone came into an aid station, how would you authenticate them? How would you recognize what vaccines they had already received and prevent a dangerous instance of duplicate vaccinations? Well, now, thanks to Truststamp's technology, we're able to use something as simple as a tablet in order to capture a facial biometric, palm biometric, and touchless fingerprint analysis. All hashed, all non-PII, all protected. Now that individual receives a card with those hashes embedded into it, that's now their unique identifier to receive aid and continue to receive aid from service providers. Not only that, from MasterCard's perspective, they are now able to create a non-PII database to allow these people to participate in the market and in the future receive other services such as education and additional aid. So what does this mean for the travel industry? Well, what it means is for all companies who either currently or have biometrics in their roadmap, you will be able to create your own biometric database. Again, you can create your own identity lake that is not PII, and you'll be able to use this token as a central reference point to identify your customers. And in some cases, you could even compare databases to other companies on a zero-knowledge proof basis. Again, all the while staying compliant and not sharing any personally identifiable information. All of our technology can be easily implemented in the cloud, on-premise, or accessible via API. So if biometrics are in your roadmap or something that you already use but want to use in a more secure and compliant manner, I'd be happy to speak with anyone afterwards.
So next up, we have Jason McMinn. He's the VP of Product and a co-founder at Locuslabs.
Thank you very much, Seth. Glad to be here today. Talking today about location and geodata in the travel space. We're Locuslabs, the location platform for the physical world. And a little bit about us. We give venue stakeholders a platform to manage, communicate, and measure everything about their space, and then take that data and put it on any screen and run it on any application. So we're not an application, but we're SDKs and data set that you can integrate into your existing travel application, whether it be mobile, web, signage, kiosks, et cetera. So a little bit about how does this work and what is geodata? So we have a system, a proprietary system that we built that allows us to capture spatial data in the real world in 3D. So think of it as a Google Street View, but handheld. We can then run this through a software pipeline and use that data to create highly accurate spatial data, so maps, point of interest information, location data. We then have a product called our Locus VMS, a venue management system that allows people to easily update that data. And then Locus Maps is a platform from which you can distribute this on any screen. So what is reality capture? Well, it's LiDAR, it's cameras, and we can walk this inside spaces as fast as you can walk. We've done this in over 120 airports and other venues across the globe. And we create a digital twin of that 50 times faster than traditional methods. We then can use our SDKs like Locus Maps. And if you've traveled and used any of the large airline apps, you've probably used our products if you've used their maps before. And we can provide location context to where your departing gate is, where you are, where your arrival gate is, connecting gate, routing, et cetera. So it makes it really easy to find anything. And then for venues, they can use our web tool to update that content, where traditionally this would have been done in a sophisticated engineering tool like AutoCAD or something like that. So we're democratizing the management of that data. So if you haven't seen, this is one of our maps in Seattle. As you kind of zoom in, any CAD file, if you're familiar with CAD, doesn't have this maniacal detail that we have. We're tracking everything. Obviously, gates, lounges, restaurants are part of that, but we're tracking where defibrillators are, where the clear check-in line is, where the TSA pre-line is, where the priority desks are, et cetera. So lots of data to be had there that we manage in our system. And this is really more than just maps, because in today's world, there's APIs, there's sensor data, there's all types of things, external data that can make the maps be more valuable and come alive. And so we also take those maps and then bundle them in an SDK, because a map in of itself is not useful. It has to have interactivity, it has to have offline access, it have to have internationalization, et cetera. So we manage all of that. So in travel, obviously, being able to find your location. So if you use this inside of an airport that has indoor location, the map's going to open up to where you are. You can actually do search for not just where Starbucks is, but you can find things like where's sushi or where's headphones, and it'll show you all the places in that venue that have that, and you can tap on those and see detailed information. One of the things that we're doing a lot with now, and one of the big questions we always get from people is, how can we integrate real-time security wait times into this, right? So if I get dropped off at Uber curbside, the big unknown is how long is that security? So we're taking API data from lots of different vendors, such as Zovis, CrowdVision, et cetera, and integrating that into the navigation graph so it can quickly show how long it's going to take to get to your gate and what's along the way in real time. We're also doing this in hospitality. So Caesars is a big customer of ours. We've actually mapped every Caesars property on the Las Vegas Strip. And so use cases are similar, but slightly different data models. So instead of finding restaurants or lounges and gates, et cetera, now you can find slot machines. You can find the backgammon table that you want that has the $10 bets. You can find anything inside of that casino floor. So one of the questions is, doesn't Apple and Google already do this? They actually obviously have big, large-scale map applications, but they're really an endpoint for outdoor data and some indoor data. So we don't do outdoor data, we do venue data, which includes outdoor and indoor. And we provide tools from which you can manage, keep that up to date, and put that on any screen. And very important distinction here as well. So let's talk about what else is possible. We talked a lot about consumer use cases. Now we're doing a lot more with enterprise asset management. So same map, in some cases private map layer data below the wing that we don't want to show to passengers, but we want to layer in enterprise operations into that. So you can do asset tracking with that, staff dispatch, queue times, et cetera. We don't build all those applications. We're the spatial canvas for that. So I'm going to show you some examples here of taking our maps and overlaying security camera locations, Wi-Fi access points. So again, we can be the canvas for all of those different applications. Here's an example where we integrate with a building automation system. So if you're running a large-scale venue and you want energy management, you have IoT sensors for temperature, et cetera, out there, and this is a way that you can easily visualize that all the way down to specific locations so that you can control your energy management. Again, the same maps is providing a spatial canvas layer for that. Even lighting systems. And then in one particular case, we have customers that are actually using this to track fire extinguishers or Wi-Fi access points, so that when they service somebody to go out there that's never been out there and to service an access point, they know where it is in space. They actually even know, they have a photo of it, so you better bring the ladder when you go out there to work on it. So this saves a lot of time for enterprise operations as well. So a little bit about us. So lots of, we launched in the airline travel space, have lots of airport and airline customers. If you've used any of the maps in those apps, we have about 350 million installs of our SDK across lots of different verticals. And so we were founded in 2014. We're based here in the Bay Area. We've raised about $5 million to date so far, and we're quickly growing as well. So thank you very much.
So last, but certainly not least, we have Abhijit Limaye, and he is the CTO and co-founder of Skylights. So take it away.
Thank you, thank you. At Skylights, we bring cinematic quality, virtual reality, and immersive entertainment to the travel and hospitality industry. Now, virtual reality industry has started a little bit in terms of consumer adoption, as we all know, for a variety of different reasons. For one, obviously, there is a lot of difficulty in accessing virtual reality. What do? You have to invest into an expensive piece of equipment only to somewhat get disappointed at the end of the day. So some folks have been somewhat skittish about that. That's been leading to some adoption issues. The content has been coming of age. There isn't enough content necessarily that justifies the use of this investment. And of course, the third part, which is using virtual reality devices has been extremely unpleasant and comfortable. So we've kind of focused on that. On the other side of the spectrum, the travel and hospitality industry is also always looking for newer, better ways to delight your guests, your customers, and entertainment has been one of the primary focus for some of us. What we do at Skylights is we are bringing these two industries together to bring the best of both worlds possible. And the way we do it is through a box office movie theater in a pair of very, very comfortable pair of glasses that our users, our passengers are able to wear for hours and hours at a time, where we are clubbing together 3D movies, 2D movies, as well as virtual reality content from different studios, 360 content, 180 content, travel experiences, advertisements, and so on and so forth in this little package. So the big things in this little package here is what we offer. The typical use cases that we currently serve are, of course, in in-flight entertainment, in long-haul business class, first class cabins. In terms of the hospitality industry, there's hotels. We have deployments in cruise lines, and of course airport lounges. So as a passenger is going through the airport, he or she is able to experience entertainment, shopping, ads, and different kinds of variety of ways to keep them occupied as they become sort of captive audiences, as we've heard, throughout their journey. We've so far gone through about 7,000 flights since the day we started. We've gone through two versions of our products. One of the biggest things that we like to focus on is the 3+ hours usage time. This is unheard of, unprecedented in the field of immersive entertainment or virtual reality. A lot of us, including me, if I've used something else, I tend to keep this away in about 15-30 minutes. Passengers in our first class cabins are being using to watch this for 2 movies, 1.5 movies sometimes, and so on and so forth. So we take utmost care and obsessively focused on the user experience in terms of how they feel. And this, we feel, is a really, really important part of how we become successful and ultimately delight the passenger or the guest. We've obviously seen, as a result of that, a great level of customer satisfaction. And we've always held this view that looking at just virtual reality content isn't what people want to do with all their time. They want to mix it up with blockbuster movies. They want to see 3D content that they haven't experienced before. And of course, they want to mix that with some 360-degree experiences. So we offer all of that and bring that in a single package that's curated. We've had great feedback from passengers and guests, and we're looking to continue with that. So what the companies can do and typically do with our solution is to be able to delight your guests, delight the passengers, so that ultimately the recommendation rates are high and builds a loyalty towards the brand as well. To kind of walk you through a little bit of that timeline, we introduced this particular headset that you folks see on the screen in September of 2018, about 9-10 months ago. Started with Air France. We were fortunate and proud to launch this with Air France back last year. We continued that with British Airways late last year. We did a very nice pilot with Alaska Airlines, flying between Boston and San Francisco, Boston, San Diego, Turkish Airlines as well. And we're currently looking at deployments in seat of Garuda's first class and business class cabins as a part of an installed product that is complementary today to the in-seat screens, but eventually hopefully replacing that as a part of the solution. So we see this as a overall platform that we are bringing together as a part of content that we source directly from 5 major studios. Our device is one of the only ones that is approved by all major studios for early window content. We put that together with a package with digital rights management security on it, and we hand this to our passengers for delight. Now, we do all of this where people are very captive, and where we go from here is we actually continue expanding on people who are still captive. If you can imagine your last dental visit, that wasn't pleasant for me, at least when I didn't have the pair of glasses to watch. But it becomes extremely pleasant when I'm doing something else, when the dentist is doing something different on me. So we will continue expanding in that region and kind of go from there. Thank you.
And so I think we have some time for questions, if we have any audience questions. I'll remind you that you can use the mobile app to submit your own questions. And for this session, don't forget there's another tab where you can go to the poll. Please vote on your favorite startup. The poll will be open through the rest of the afternoon, and the winner will be announced at the end of the session. We've got some to start. Let's kick it right off. So let's start with you, Nadim, with Arise. Who are the giants you're competing with, and who would be your ideal partner?
Yep, good question. So it's really, there are three categories of giants that we are hoping to disrupt. You've got the affiliate networks of Expedia and Booking. So I'm not talking about the customer-facing side, but the affiliate network. You've got the wholesaler, and then you've got the GDS. So again, depending on which demand partner you're talking about, some feed off these three, some it's a combination of two and whatnot. But so those would be the ones we are going after. And an ideal partner is, actually, realistically, it's two-sided. So you have the supply, the hotel side, and a demand partner. So that's why, for us, The Edge is a good use case, because we have supply more independent. We can have basically 75% of the hotels in Paris to start. CWT is one of the demand partner, but it could be any OTA, any TMC, basically companies that sell hotel rooms that care about the supply, and we basically close the loop and automate the whole, commission payments and so forth. So, yeah, that I think answers the question, I hope.
Maybe just staying with some focus one, then we'll go a little broader. But it's for Truststamp, your technology's applications behind travel. What do you think about blurring of industry borders? And anyone here can jump in. I know many of your startups actually do cross industry borders, whether it be dentistry or what have you, or the consumer mapping experience. So let me some thoughts on all three of you industry blurring.
Sure. So it's interesting. So the issue of identity is something that is not obviously limited to the travel industry. In the two use cases I described, it was a law enforcement use case, and then it was a financial inclusion use case. So absolutely, the issue of identity is something that is pervasive across industries, and it's only becoming more and more important as digital channels become the primary route through which we interact with people. Let's face it, we can't execute a transaction if we don't know who are you and can I trust you. So regarding kind of the blurring of boundaries, absolutely, I think there's going to be a little bit more blurring because a lot of the issues that you find in the travel industry are not unique to it. It has clear applications in other markets. So absolutely, I agree with whoever asked this question. Yeah, you're going to see a lot more blurring of boundaries, and I think that's going to create bigger and better opportunities for startups.
Jason, Abhijit?
I think at the end of the day, the customer at the end of this spectrum is the same. Whether I'm traveling for work today or for pleasure, I am still a consumer, and I go home and I do things as an individual, while I'm looked at as a guest for the travel and hospitality industry. I'm still a consumer when I go home. So we share that, and that's how the boundaries are going to become blurrier, I think.
And maybe, Jason, for Locuslabs, because I've got this great question about Google Maps, and Google's going to be on stage a little bit later today, and we love talking about Google at Skift. So
yeah, good question. We get this question all the time. So no doubt, Google Maps is the 800-pound gorilla in the mapping space. Fantastic app. They are continuing to add features. Where we've had a lot of success in a couple-fold. Number one is we have customers that change data 10 to 20 times a week, right? And it can take, and they're in control of the data. And when they hit publish, that goes out everywhere. It can take months, 6 months to update data on Google Maps if you're providing them data, which we do in some instances. But if you have a gate change, or if you have something, a lounge is shut down for remodeling, those kind of events are near real-time events. You need to be able to respond to that, and so that's where, because we have the management systems and the control, and we can push that out and publish it, it makes the maps near real-time.
I like this last question, are you a product or a company? And I'm going to open it up for all of you guys, like, how do you think about really adding value through your business models as opposed to just, being deployment for some interesting tech? What do you guys think about that?
I think sometimes I would call feature a company. I think maybe sometimes there's really great features that could be part of an ecosystem, maybe built on top of an existing application. You see this in Slack and all these other things, and I think that is a fundamental question, which is, does it have a real business model behind it? Can it be big enough to be a company versus a project?
All right.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
Well, it was a bit of a light in Q&A, but we're all out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed it, and please, reach out to these guys. If there's plenty of questions left, please find them after the session. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.